The cosmetic surgery series started back in 2007 and continued in 2009. From a painting perspective, I felt like the disfigurement of the human form, whether facial or bodily, um, looked very interesting to me. I felt that this disfigurement was more of an internal one. After all we've been through, a civil war that went from loud to silent, it did not stop, it did not really end. I felt nothing has changed. The need to sit down and address the urgent issues was completely ignored. We just artificially moved forward, never confronting what had happened. We embraced a state of denial that continues to this day. I think the theme of the cosmetic surgery series reflects this state of denial. We keep treating the surface while the wound underneath just remains.
Cosmetic medicine in Lebanon is not a new trend. It's a full-fledged sector of the economy. Cosmetic surgery or plastic surgery generates millions of fresh US dollars and brings in tourists. Lebanon's civil war aided in the development of the medical profession's highly specialized reconstructive surgical skills because that's what war does. It injures and burns, and ultimately treatment alters the surface.
Today, plastic surgery is a big business in Lebanon, but is going under the knife changing the face of Lebanese identity?
The Mafek Min Rasi is to look at how government policy and the trauma of the civil war in Lebanon shaped contemporary artistic practice and focus on how some practices dealt with the trauma through whimsy.
This is perfect. Bye, guys!
The end of the Lebanese Civil War also gave way to another type of change on the surface. The Taif Accord in 1989 stopped the hostilities of the Civil War. Following the Taif Accords, and this is the real sticking point, in 1990, the Lebanese parliament passed an amnesty law effectively granting any former members of militias exemption from criminal prosecution. In other words, Lebanese parliament passed a law forcing a collective amnesia. Basically, no one is held accountable and no prosecutions for the killing, kidnapping, and disappearances that happened during the Lebanese Civil War. Lebanon just had to forget and at the same time move forward. Since the end of the Lebanese Civil War in 1989, a whole class of artists refused this forced amnesia imposed by the Lebanese parliament decree. These artists considered, what did the war do to the image of Lebanon and not what are the images of the war? The forced amnesia was a cosmetic solution to underlying trauma. To know what did the war do to the image of Lebanon, we need to match up the artistic practice, the method and medium an artist used to create an artwork, to the context that this artwork is referencing. So it's a background check of some of the history. To drill down on this point, because in order to move forward, we need to really grasp the idea that sits at the core of this type of artistic practice, let's look at the work of the artist Lamia Joreige, who was one of the early disruptors and influencers in the post-Civil War artistic production. To do the artwork, which is a video work titled Here and Elsewhere Perhaps, Lamia Joreige walked around Beirut while filming, asking people, do you know anyone who was kidnapped here during the war? Lamia was not looking for one particular person. Lamia was referencing the 17,000 people here and elsewhere, hon wa rubbama honak, that were disappeared or kidnapped during the Lebanese Civil War. The medium of the art is a video work. But what is the method? What is the composition? Lamia made the artwork by triggering people's memory. So Lamia circumvents the amnesty passed by the Lebanese parliament and undoes the imposed amnesia. Lamia creates her own archive of Beirut. The opposite of archive is amnesia, whereas amnesia erases any memory or trace of events. Archives combat amnesia. I asked Ala Younis to explain archive in the context of contemporary art practices in Lebanon.
أرشيف الحرب اللبنانية ما كان موجود بالشكل المنظم أو الواسع أو المتنوع اللي إحنا بنشوفه اليوم. الأرشفة نفسها كانت واحدة من المهمات اللي انشغل فيها اللبنانيين والفنانين منهم في فترة ما بعد الحرب. كل مجموعة لجأت إلى مواد معينة تشتغل فيها. بعض الناس اشتغلت مع استوديوهات الأفلام والصور، سواء اللي كانت ضاعت أو تعطلت بسبب الحرب، أو اللي بالعكس وثقت مناحي موجودة في الحياة ما كنا نتخيل تكون تصير في زمن الحرب.
In this article in the New York Times, Whimsy, a new trend may be a life raft, Whimsy is described as a playful response to a difficult world. Whimsy is having a moment thanks to Gen Zers and Trillennials who have upcycled the word to characterize a lifestyle that blends playfulness, spontaneity, and being present. Because the Gen Zs and Trillennials are trying to deal with a world that has become scary, violent, oppressive, and the cost of living has skyrocketed. Although Whimsy is new to Gen Z, artists in Lebanon and the diaspora have a long history in the life raft of Whimsy. Whimsy is a visual aesthetic that is mobilized to address some hard questions. It draws the viewer in as being pleasant, but it is disturbed at the core. Ziad Antar is Ziad Antar. He's a filmmaker and a photographer and holds a degree in agricultural engineering. His project titled Does a Sunflower Turn with the Sun? Is Whimsy. By mobilizing the title as a question, the viewer is put on the spot. Think quick. Do sunflowers turn with the sun? It's a trick question. By painting bright yellow sunflowers on top of photographs, Ziad explores the outcomes of interventions of international organizations on local ecosystems. During the Lebanese Civil War from 1975 to 1990, economic hardship led rural communities to illicitly cultivate cannabis and poppy for survival. Post-war international organizations urged the Lebanese government to replace these crops with sunflowers. However, sunflowers required specific conditions not present in Lebanon's mountainous regions, leading to the project's failure. Side note here, why does all this art speak English, you may be wondering? Why not Arabic or French? Contemporary art needs to address a global audience in order to be cataloged, discussed, and sold easily across borders. That's one of the intended reaches, to be exhibited in commercial venues like Art Basel, which speaks English, and in non-commercial venues like the Venice Biennale, also conducted in English, and also to be able to be shown in major museums like the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Lingua franca is the language of international contracts and arbitration, so naturally Art Speak would be inclined to be in English, but that does not override Arabic when the need be. Marwan Rechmaoui's sculpture work titled Beiruter Caoutchouc is made from caoutchouc rubber. During the Civil War, rubber tires were used as roadblocks or checkpoints, creating divisions in the city. Marwan makes an object from the map of Beirut with no divisions of the political identity created by the Civil War. Marwan smooths out what the war did to the image of Lebanon. He alters the surface of Beirut's divisions using the material that marked the Civil War divisions, caoutchouc rubber. Visitors are welcome to walk over the map.
Mapping can make you read a lot of history. When you read a map, you can know a lot of the history about the place. There's always a trace of something from what's left. When you look at the overall picture of the city, you start seeing those spots of different ethnicities, different minorities, different sects, a mix between ethnicity and a sect. And it can go on, and then you can have a very clear image of the place you are dwelling in. That's where the first project of Beirut as a city came, Beiruter Caoutchouc.
Rahman Katanani smooths out the image of the children in Lebanon's camp life. Katanani was born in 1983 in Sabra, 1 year after the 1982 massacre in the Beirut camps of Sabra and Shatila. This is Rose Issa's working draft of her upcoming book out in October 2026, a monograph on the artist Rahman Katanani. Katanani makes sculpture from discarded materials found in the camps. These works are made with corrugated iron, barbed wire, and scraps, materials that are strongly associated with camps and contradict universal health and safety standards for child's play. The work is playful and aesthetically pleasing, altering the surface, or the reality of the disturbing core of children playing on the site of a massacre. The word plastic, like in plastic surgery and plastic arts, means to mold. It is fanciful to think that by altering or sometimes mutilating the body through plastic surgery, one can override the genetic code designed to develop, survive, and reproduce. Whimsy alters the surface. It molds aesthetics to present something more fanciful and playful, to deal with the trauma stemming from some very disturbing policies and archive.